Welcome to Cracked Open, a podcast about life, love, loss, and the truths we discover along the way. Together, we'll explore the struggles that shape us, the lessons we carry, and the hope that keeps us moving forward. This is more than stories. It's honesty. It's healing. It's real. Let's get started. And now your host, Glen Nunes.
Hi, welcome back to Cracked Open. I'm your host, Glen Nunes, and today we're going to talk about never giving up, especially when it looks really bad. What does never give up actually mean? Is it a blind denial? Is it pride? Is it obsession? Or is it quiet, grounded conviction when everything looks finished? In this episode, I'm going to talk about what it means to stand firm when logic says walk away and when your opinion's allowed and when the sea hasn't parted yet. Never giving up isn't about forcing an outcome. It's about refusing to lose your soul while you're waiting for one. I'm going to talk about Red Sea moments before the miracle, the difference between pride and faith, standing when the crowd says turn your back, the danger of quitting on yourself, and what it really means to keep your integrity when the outcome isn't in your hands. So let's dive in. Okay, so never give up. This phrase, it gets thrown around so casually, like it's a bumper sticker or maybe something you see on a coffee mug, like it's something you say when things are mildly inconvenient. But what does it really mean when you're standing in the center of a storm? What does it really mean? Have you ever felt like that? Storm on the left, storm on the right, emotions, anger, faith, hope, humiliation, waiting. Somehow, you're still standing. Never give up doesn't mean be blind. It doesn't mean keep doing the same dumb thing expecting a different result. It doesn't mean ignore red flags. It doesn't mean stay in the abuse. It doesn't mean deny reality. It means you refuse to let the storm define you. That's the contrast. Now, I watched a video recently of my pastor, Brian. I talk about him a lot in church and stuff on the podcast. But I watched this video of Pastor Brian. I'm going to put the link in the description. He's paralyzed, couldn't speak, couldn't move. A man who preached faith, lying in a hospital bed, unable to form words. If never give up meant circumstances have to look good, he would have quit. But he didn't. And now he's back preaching at church on the pulpit. It's just awesome. And it's powerful because it's real. And then I saw this other video on Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey talks about jumping, about stepping when you don't see the parachute, about trusting that something catches you, and not because you're arrogant, but because you believe there's something bigger at work. Never give up doesn't guarantee you the outcome that you're praying for. It guarantees you, though, that you don't lose yourself while you wait. And I'm going to be talking about a couple of other videos that will be linked in the description. But first, I wanted to just mention Pastor Brian and Steve Harvey's. They're great videos that you can go click on, and it defines never giving up. But now I want to talk about the contrast between biblical waiting versus destructive waiting. Biblical waiting is preparation. It's refinement. It's becoming strong enough to carry what you're asking for. And destructive waiting is fear. It's avoidance. It's refusing to move when you know you should. So I want to talk about Moses a little bit here. If those of you don't know who Moses, I'll get into it a little bit more. But maybe your Red Sea hasn't opened yet. Maybe it looks like a dead end. And maybe everyone around you is telling you to turn your back. But sometimes the sea doesn't open until your feet get wet. And this is what I want to talk about Moses, and I'll get into him in a little bit. For those of you who don't know Moses, I imagine everybody does. But so never give up, not on your faith, not on your growth, not on becoming who you're supposed to be, but also don't give up on your dignity, your boundaries, or your peace. Stand in the center of the storm without letting it turn you into it. Stand in the center of the storm without letting it turn you into it. That's what never giving up really means. And let me say something important here. Never give up. It's not just about stubbornness. It's not about being obstinate. It's not about blindly clinging to something that's clearly destroying you. There's another word for never giving up. persist, persevere, maintain your efforts, be tenacious, but not arbitrarily, okay? Not randomly, not emotionally, and not recklessly. True perseverance isn't stubborn pride. It's purposeful persistence. It's not repeating the same failing strategy. It's adapting, pivoting, learning, standing back up, and just moving forward again. Another video that I wanted to mention was a video I saw on Robin Williams. I've mentioned him in the last few podcasts, but for some reason he's been on my heart. I watched an old clip of Robin Williams from 5 years ago. It's before he died. He was talking about depression, encouraging people, telling them what to do if they felt lost. And then 5 years later, the news broke that he had taken his own life. Now hear me, that doesn't make him weak. It just shows how real the storm can get. Okay, so I want you to sit with that for a second, because sometimes people don't give up publicly. They give up quietly. They smile, they perform, they inspire, but inside, they're drowning. And that's why never give up. It can't just be a slogan. It has to be intentional. It has to be strategic. It has to be a conscious decision that I will never let this storm make my decisions for me. That's what you have to say to yourself. It won't happen overnight, but if you quit, it won't happen at all. Getting back to Moses, when Moses stood at the Red Sea, it didn't part because he screamed. It didn't part because he chased it, and it didn't part because he forced it. It parted because he stood still long enough for God to move, and that's strong. Never give up doesn't mean forcing the outcome. It means refusing to collapse while the outcome is forming. And that's mature, that's powerful, it's faith-based without sounding delusional. So you're not giving up on your faith, you're not giving up on your future, you're not giving up on becoming who you're supposed to be. But you also don't persist arbitrarily. You don't cling to a failing method, and you don't destroy yourself in the process. You adapt, you stand, you breathe, you keep walking when the path opens. Life can feel like a chaotic, arbitrary storm, but your refusal to collapse in it, that's not random. That's intentional. That's strength. You don't need the storm to disappear to prove that you didn't give up. You just need to still be standing when it passes. Let me ask you a question. What do you think Moses felt? Because Moses wasn't made of stone. He was a man. Before he fled Egypt, he probably felt rage, impulse, shock at what he'd done, a split identity. He had Hebrew blood, but an Egyptian upbringing, fear of being exposed, maybe even, I just ruined everything. He killed someone trying to defend someone else. That's messy. That's emotional. It's not polished leadership. That's reaction. And then he fled. And if you don't know the story, go read the story about Moses. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on the podcast about it, but I'm sure most of you know the story. And for 40 years, he was in the wilderness, 40 years as a shepherd, 40 years of quiet. What does that feel like? A failure, displacement, lost potential. He's probably saying to himself, I was supposed to be something, and now I'm nobody. That's not glamorous faith. It's silence. And then the burning bush. He doesn't respond with confidence. He argues, he doubts, he says, I can't speak. He resists. He wasn't bold. He was reluctant. And then he finds himself at the Red Sea. There's a wall of water in front of you, an army behind you, no exit, no plan B, people screaming, blaming you. What do you think he felt? That wasn't encouraging faith, I'm sure. Pressure, responsibility. God, if you don't move right now, we're done. There's a difference between believing in God and standing with water in front of you. That's the difference. And here's something most people miss. The sea didn't part because Moses screamed at it. And it didn't part because he chased it. It didn't part because he panicked. It parted when he stood, when he stopped arguing, when he lifted the staff, when emotion shifted into obedience. And imagine the moment it began to open. Not the chaos inside him, the stillness, the shock, the awe, the adrenaline, the silence. And when they walked through, No celebration, no dancing, just fragile focus, step by step. Keep walking. Don't look at the walls. Don't think about what could collapse. And here's the part nobody talks about. The Red Sea wasn't the finish line. It was just the next step. Freedom doesn't remove the struggle. It changes terrain. So here's the truth. The real question at the sea isn't, how will this end? The real question is, will I collapse before it does? Because the miracle isn't the water parting. The miracle is the man who doesn't collapse before it does. Middle moments feel like death before they become crossing points. And most people quit in the middle. And Moses didn't. He stood. People mean well. They look at patterns. They look at what usually happens. But faith was never built on usually. It was built on even if it looks finished, even if logic says stop, even if the crowd says turn back. That's not arrogance. That's conviction. And conviction doesn't scream. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need to defend itself. It just stands. And let's take this a little deeper. Moses didn't go from fear to faith in one leap. He moved through stages. Before he fled Egypt and after killing the Egyptian, he was probably drowning in conflict. Righteous anger, impulse, fear of his life. Like I said, the identity crisis. Raised Egyptian-born Hebrew. Not fully either. He acted, then he ran. And that's not polished leadership. That's just raw humanity. Then came the wilderness. 40 years. That's not a detour. That's a lifetime. 40 years. 40 years of obscurity, of tending sheep. 40 years of what probably felt like wasted potential. Imagine thinking your story peaked at 40. Well, that's humbling. Then the sea. This is where it matters. Army behind him, water in front of him, people panicking. Do you imagine? Just picture yourself at that scene. He was carrying thousands of lives on his shoulders. And the logic says you're trapped. That moment is pressure like most of us will never feel. And yet, he didn't collapse. He didn't argue statistics. He didn't scream at the water. He stood. And when the sea opened, it wasn't just spectacle. It was validation. It was confirmation. It was the moment fear turned into certainty. But even walking through wasn't celebration. It was steady focus, step by step. Like he said, don't look at the walls. Don't think about the collapse. Just keep moving. And after, relief, gratitude, but not the end of struggle. Because faith doesn't move deserts. It carries us through them. Now let me bring this out of Scripture and back into real life. I'm going to bring up Pastor Brian again. From paralyzed to the pulpit. This proves endurance in suffering, just pure perseverance. So never give up isn't loud. Sometimes it's just learning how to speak again. And as I said, I will put Brian's link to his video in the description, and I'm also going to put Steve Harvey's. And even if you don't like Steve Harvey, what he says in his clip, it's very moving. I think you should watch it. Whether you believe in God or not, the pattern is the same. Breakthrough comes after endurance. And after you watch those two clips, and then I put the other clip about Robin Williams, this is the other side. It's a man who made the world laugh, who even spoke about depression, but he still gave up. Never giving up isn't cliche. It's survival. So, unfortunately, it didn't end well, but I just want to put the contrast of someone who didn't give up and then when people do give up. It's a very compelling contrast. I've actually been going through a lot of stuff myself. We've all lived on roller coasters. And I actually found myself praying one day saying, I hope that my children don't have more of my heart and have more of their moms. And I'm not talking bad about anybody here, but I never want them to feel what I felt. I don't want to say I don't want them to have a big heart or a deep heart, but man, I would never want my children to experience some of the deep feelings I've experienced. And I just pray they never have to go through some of the stuff that I've witnessed and lived with, and the pain. It's just overwhelming, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, because feeling deeply is painful, but it's also what makes love meaningful. It's what makes loyalty real, and it's what makes faith alive. Cold hearts don't suffer like this, and they also don't love like this. That's not weakness. That's capacity. And I'm not trying to attack anyone here. It's just advice. One thing I'm getting tired of is being told that the ending is already written. There's a difference between protection and prediction. Moses had people screaming at him. Why did you bring us here? We were better off before. It's over. And he stood in collective doubt. But here's the key. The sea didn't part to prove the crowd wrong. It parted because obedience met timing. You know, you don't need to fight the crowd. If God is moving, you don't argue. You walk. Faith isn't proven by getting the outcome you want. Faith is proven by who you are while you're waiting. And that's the Red Sea. That's the middle. And that's where most people quit. Because like I said earlier, never give up isn't just like a slogan. It's a decision. And sometimes it's the difference between rebuilding and disappearing. I watched that video of Pastor Brian. I know I'm going to keep talking about it. When he was in the hospital, paralyzed, couldn't speak, could barely move. And he's back at that pulpit, man. It's an incredible story. And that didn't happen overnight. That didn't happen because it was easy. That happened because he refused to quit inside. He prayed, he believed, and he just fought, and he never gave up. Let's go back to Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey was homeless at one point. He was sleeping in his car. Public humiliation, career setbacks after career setbacks, and he just kept going. And not because it felt good, and not because it was guaranteed, but because he decided quitting was not an option. And then we have the other side, Robin Williams, a man who made the whole world laugh. And he talked about depression openly, and he gave all kind of advice about fighting it. And 5 years later, gone. And that's not judgment, that's just reality. And sometimes pain wins. Sometimes people get tired. In this episode, it isn't about pretending pain isn't real. It's about acknowledging that every one of us stands at the fork in the road. Give up or endure. Enduring doesn't mean screaming. It doesn't mean proving everyone wrong. It means staying alive in the storm long enough for the path to appear. And now, I'm going to bring this down from history, down from the Bible, and down from famous names. I'm going to put it right here on me. Because this isn't theoretical for me. This isn't motivational fluff. I'm standing in something right now. I've been humiliated myself. I've been humbled. I feel judged. I feel the odds are stacked way against me. It looks really bad. I feel people have already wrote off my story and my ending. And you know what? I'm still standing. That doesn't mean I'm not angry. It doesn't mean I'm not hurt. It doesn't mean I won't wake up at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning staring at the ceiling. You know what it means? That I haven't quit. And quitting doesn't just mean ending your life, as Robin Williams did. Quitting means shutting your heart down, becoming cold, becoming bitter, becoming someone you're not. I could do that. I could say, forget this situation. I don't care. Screw everyone. But that wouldn't be strength. We all have our own situations. But put yourself in your situation and just listen to what I'm saying. If you do those things, if you say, change who you are, and I don't care, and all the negative stuff, you know, what that is, that's armor. And armor keeps out pain, but it also can keep out love. So when I say never give up, and I'm not saying chase something or lose your dignity or put yourself down. You can't do that. I'm saying don't give up on who you are while you're still staying at your Red Sea, because we all have our own Red Sea in front of us. And I want to just say this. If you're in a relationship, say your husband or your wife have left, you're separated, or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever your situation may be, and whatever the case may be, if one of you come back, whether it's the husband or the wife, the boyfriend or the girlfriend, they're not going to come back because you screamed at the ocean. And if they don't come back, it doesn't mean that your faith was foolish. The miracle isn't controlling the outcome. The miracle is not losing your soul while waiting for one, is what I'm trying to say. And maybe that's what your situation is really about. Not whether the sea opens, not whether the relationship restores, not whether the diagnosis changes, if it's an illness, and maybe it's a financial thing, not whether the bank account grows or doesn't grow, and not whether the business comes back, but whether you stay whole while you're in it. Because anyone can celebrate when it works out, but character, it's built when it hasn't yet. And I don't know how your story ends or my story ends. I don't know. But I do know this. I will not let pain make me bitter. I will not let humiliation make me small. I will not let waiting steal my faith. And I will not lose who I am just because the outcome hasn't moved. And that's strength, and I hope that's how you look at this. Not yelling, not defending, not proving. Just steady. Just stay steady. So just as Moses, and no matter what your situation is, Moses is a human being just like you and me, and God loves you just like he loves him. So no matter the situation, whether it's a relationship, maybe a job, a dream, maybe the purchase of a home, or something that's been just tugging on your heart, just don't give up. Because no matter what the outside influences are, if you don't give up, that sea will part. Hang in there. You're not alone. And you know that saying, winners never quit and quitters never win. It's so true. If this is a relationship we're talking about and things look terrible and everything looks really bad, stick to your faith, your heart, your mind, and your soul. And if this is the case for you, the fact that you still want him or her does not mean he or she is your destiny. It means you haven't emotionally detached yet. Those are two different things. You can love someone deeply, and they still may not be aligned with you. You can forgive someone and still decide you won't live in humiliation. You can believe in miracles and still protect your dignity. So nothing is wrong with you. You're bounded, you're wounded, you're embarrassed, you're humiliated, but you're hopeful, you're grieving, you're proud, you're spiritual, you're attached. That's a brutal cocktail, but it's human. But the real question isn't what's wrong with me. The real question is, can you love them without losing yourself? And that's the line. And right now, you're suffering because you feel like you're losing yourself in the process. And that's why it hurts more than just missing them. So you take a breath, take a deep breath. You're not crazy, you're not pathetic, you're not weak. You're attached to someone who isn't fully choosing you. That's painful, not insane. And it doesn't mean God is against you. It just means that you're in the middle of a detachment that you haven't finished yet. Stay steady. If this is what is needed, you work on it. It will be hard, but people get pushed to their end. Sometimes, like, enough is enough. Your soul can only take so much. And forget about your heart. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. Jeremiah 17, verses 9 and 10. I'm going to repeat it. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. The heart is inherently deceitful, prone to self-deception, and deeply sinful, making it impossible for humans to fully understand their own motivations. While people may believe that they are good and moral, the heart often hides selfish desires and masks true intentions. It's making it incurable without God. But if your whole being believes and your faith moves you, don't let people, outside influences and the internet and statistics or anything get in the way of what you believe. Don't let them do it. And I'm not talking about just chemistry, just trauma bond, or just ego, or just fear of being alone. I'm talking about something that feels covenant level, sacred, once in a lifetime, a recognized soul, something that changed you at your core. That's different. And when something wakes you up spiritually, emotionally, creatively, and existently all at once, it doesn't feel replaceable. It feels ordained, God ordained. So it feels like, this is the one person who cracked me open. This is the one person who saw me. This is the one person I became alive with. That's not casual attachment. That's identity level bonding. But here's the tension. Something can be sacred to you and still not aligned right now. Those two things can coexist. It could be someone is in another part of the country away from you. It could be that someone's in a rebound relationship or any kind of relationship. It could be many things that are separating you. But don't give up. If it's divine intervention, it will happen. But it doesn't mean that you are going to be reunited either. You loving them deeply does not automatically mean that you're weak. It also doesn't automatically mean it's guaranteed to resolve the way you want. You wrestle with stuff like, if this is divine, why does it look so wrong? If this is real, why are they not choosing me fully? If this is God, why does it feel so humiliating? That's the war. Not attachment versus logic, and not AI versus faith. It's love versus dignity, hope versus reality, calling versus current circumstance. And that's a brutal place to stand. You can have AI build you a speech or a statue. That won't work. It fools the fool, but the wise will see it's fake. And honest, humble, sincere words and actions, they come from God, not a computer. If somebody asks you a question that could be disrespectful or even stupid, because it will happen many times like this, without the psychology and without the statistics, if they ask you something like, if they come back tomorrow fully, no gray area, no other person or outside influence, clean slate, new chapter, no humiliation, just chose you clearly, would you carry resentment or would you forgive clean? Your answer is going to tell you if this is sacred love or wounded pride mixed in. And be honest with yourself. Sit back and think and pray on that for a while, and you'll get answers. But please answer it honestly. And if this is how you really feel in your heart, if you answer forgiveness, that answer wasn't ego. It wasn't pride. It wasn't I need to win. It is simple. You'd forgive clean, no scoreboard, no punishment, no reminding her or no reminding him, no I told you so's, none of that. That says something very important if that's where you come to. This isn't revenge energy. It isn't possession, and it isn't control. It's love. Real love that doesn't keep receipts. So now here's the part that matters. The depth of your willingness to forgive does not guarantee the timing or the outcome, but it absolutely speaks to your character. And that's the part that you can stand on. You are not crazy for loving like that. You are not weak for loving like that. And you are not pathetic for loving like that. You just loved deeply. And the danger isn't that you'd forgive them. The danger is that while you're willing to forgive clean, you're not forgiving yourself clean. You keep feeling like a fool. You stay humiliated. You feel like a failure. If they walk back in tomorrow and you forgave them instantly, like with a snap of a finger, why are you punishing yourself harder than you would ever punish them? That's the part that needs attention. You can believe they're coming back, and you can believe God is working. You can believe this isn't over, but don't destroy yourself in the meantime to prove loyalty. Love that strong doesn't require self-erasure. And here's another question. If they ever come back, would you still be proud of how you loved them? That answer matters too. So be careful of the peanut gallery. Listen to God and try to avoid saying everyone is wrong and I'm right, because the bottom line isn't opinions. What's valued is your opinion and theirs only. So when you're fighting for something you believe in, the hardest part isn't the situation. It's the voices, the opinions, the logic, the stats, the well-meaning advice that feels like someone is pouring cold water on your fire. Because here's the truth. It's not that people are trying to crush your hope. It's that hope and self-protection often sounds like enemies. You don't have to agree with everything. You don't have to follow every opinion. But don't harden yourself against feedback either. That turns strength into isolation. So I'm not telling you to ignore wisdom or fact. I'm telling you to know your conviction. There's a difference. That's mature faith. It's grounded belief. It's not delusion. It's not ego. Again, real love doesn't keep receipts. And if they come back tomorrow clean, I would forgive, not because I'm weak, but because that's who I am. But loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. You have to evaluate how important you are to them. And that's really the most important thing of all. Don't be naive, because actions speak a lot louder than words. People can say things to you and they can lie right to your face and they can discourage you because you believe them. But sometimes you have to also say enough is enough. So you pray on it and you'll figure it out. If it's not from God, you'll know. And if it's evil, you'll know that eventually. You figure it out. But in the meantime, hopefully you're growing from it. And the next person that gets you, whether it's them or someone else, they will be blessed because you'll be such a way better person than you were before you were destroyed. You grow from it and you become stronger. And that knowledge, that kind of knowledge, you cannot purchase that. So getting back into the topic, which is never giving up, I found this story of a woman who didn't give up on her marriage. I found that as I was listening to podcasts, I used to take my son to the ferry every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning because his car died and I couldn't sleep. And so I would give him a ride every morning. I love those rides. So I would just drive and I would listen to podcasts and watch the sun come up every morning. And I found this podcast one day. It was a woman that was interviewing her mother, which was interesting to me. And after I heard the conversation, it really moved me because it's really about never giving up. So I wanted to listen to it again, but I couldn't find it. It disappeared off my phone. It wasn't in my history. It took me literally months to find this. But what's so strange is I found it this week as I decided to do this Never Give Up episode. It just came out of nowhere and I found it. And I've been looking for this for months. And this is what's been happening to me time and time again since I've started doing these podcasts. I just happened to be doing some research and I found it. So I want to talk about her right now. Her name is Charlene and her husband's name is Bob and their last name is Steinkamp. Her example is just amazing. And she saved her relationship, not by chasing, not by begging, not by manipulating, but by working on herself. I am going to put the link to this podcast in the description, and I would highly recommend listening to it. Her husband had left her with her 4 small children. It looked done. Everybody was telling her it was over. I mean, including her church, her therapist, her friends, everybody. But instead of forcing it, she surrendered control. She focused on growth. She focused on character. She focused on becoming steady. And over time, not overnight, reconciliation happened, and you have to go listen to the story. It's just truly amazing. Not because she fought him, but because she didn't quit becoming better. And what made her story powerful? It wasn't don't ever let go. It was never give up. It was she worked on herself. She didn't control him. She didn't chase. She didn't manipulate. She surrendered control. That's strength. Never giving up does not mean begging, forcing, obsessing, and losing dignity. It means staying aligned with your values while you let God do the work. And I'm going to leave you the link, like I said, in the description. I highly recommend listening to this. And it doesn't have to be a marriage. It could be a relationship. It could be whatever situation you're in. I highly recommend it. Listening to it, it's beyond moving. And I have another story that I wanted to talk about that. When I was doing this podcast, it came in my head and I did a little research and I found it. It's the donkey story. So let me tell you a quick story about that. There was this donkey who fell into a well. So the farmer came over and looked at him and thought, well, he's old. He's not worth the effort. The well needs to be filled anyway. So instead of rescuing him, he started throwing dirt on him. And at first the donkey panicked, but then something shifted. Every time the dirt hit his back, he shook it off. And then he stepped on it. Shake, step, shake, step, shake, step. The same dirt that was supposed to bury him became the thing that lifted him until eventually he walked right out of the well. Now here's why that story matters. Because sometimes the dirt isn't just circumstances. It's opinions, it's statistics, it's people saying it's over, let them go. It's humiliation, it's doubt, it's advice that feels like someone's shoveling you in. And you have 2 choices. You can let it bury you, or you can shake it off and step up. So I've had dirt thrown on me lately, personally. Some of it was deserved, some of it not. Some of it's logical, some of it painful. But here's what I decided. I'm not staying in that well. I'm shaking it off. I'm stepping up. Shake it off, step up. And that's never giving up. Now, that's not angry, and that's not defensive. That's not, I'll prove you all wrong. That's control strength. The miracle is not losing your soul while waiting for one. Because that donkey didn't scream at the farmer. He didn't argue. He didn't fight the dirt. He just used it. That's mature power. You're not crazy. You're not delusional. You're intense. You're emotional. You're wounded. You're passionate. That combination is dangerous in the wrong direction, but powerful in the right one. Tonight you're not buried. You're building. So whatever your situation is in, put yourself in that well. And when life throws dirt on you, you don't suffocate. You shake it off and you step on it and then you rise. Okay? So before I close this out, I want to leave you with something practical. Sometimes a sermon won't reach you. Sometimes a statistic won't reach you. But sometimes you just need a song that hits you in the chest and reminds you not to quit. So there's a couple of songs that I want to talk about. Sometimes you don't need another voice talking. Sometimes you just need a song that carries you when your own strength is low. I put together a Never Give Up playlist because I was researching some songs and trying to find them, and I found so many of them that I can't name them all. I'm going to put them in the description. I'm not going to break down all of them, but I want to talk about 3 of them. The first song, if you're stuck and you're in the waiting, the first song is by Switchfoot. It's called Dare You to Move. This one is for when you're in that frozen space, the tension between staying where you are and stepping forward. Dare You to Move isn't about forcing something. It's about choosing motion over paralysis. Okay? And the second song, if you're fighting for love, and like in a relationship or a reconciliation, I Won't Give Up by Jason Mraz. This one's about loving without ego, loving without scorekeeping. It's about saying I won't give up, not because I need to win, but because I believe in what we had and what we are going to have. And if you're waiting on God, Waiting on You by Gateway Worship. This one is for the spiritual wrestlers, the ones who believe God is moving even when it's silent. Waiting isn't weakness. Waiting is formation. And as I said, I'm doing something different in this podcast. I'm actually going to put the whole playlist in there. I've never done that. There were so many songs. And like I said, I'm going to list them in the description, but you can just click on them and filter through them, and maybe something will touch your heart. But I wanted to reference those first 3. The rest of that playlist will be in the description. You can go check them out. If you're like that donkey and you're in a well right now, put your headphones in and don't sit in the silence. Listen. And right now, I'd like to just say a nice comforting prayer, that you can all just pray to yourself. Okay, so, Father, I don't come to you polished. I don't come to you calm. I come to you cracked open. You see the confusion. You see the tears no one else sees. You see the nights where hope feels foolish. If this door is from you, protect it. If it is not, remove it. But whatever you do not let me lose myself in the process. Strengthen my spine. Guard my dignity and protect my heart from becoming hard. If restoration is coming, prepare me. If release is coming, steady me. I trust you, not because I understand the outcome, but because you have carried me through worse. I will not give up, not on you, not on growth, not on becoming who you're shaping me to be. Even if I don't understand the timing, and even if I don't understand all this silence, I surrender the outcome, but I will not surrender my faith. So tonight, I don't come to you pretending everything looks good. Some of us are standing at walls. Some of us are staring at closed doors. Some of us are exhausted from holding faith when nothing around us seems to move. But we are all still here. We are all still breathing, still believing, and still standing, and that matters. So God, teach us the difference between stubborn pride and steady faith. If we are holding on to something you are not in, remove it. If we are standing in something you are shaping, strengthen it. Help us not to give up on our integrity, our growth, our character, our calling. Protect us from bitterness. Protect us from humiliation turning into hardness. And protect us from becoming someone we don't recognize. If the sea parts, we'll praise you. If the sea stays still, we'll trust you. But we will not quit on becoming who you're building us to be. So give us courage that is calm, faith that is steady, and hope that doesn't need applause. And when the world says it's over, remind us that you write the final sentence. We surrender the outcome, but we will not surrender our faith. In Jesus' mighty, holy, precious name, amen. So, in the closing thoughts here, before we close this out, it's been an episode that just fell on my heart. There's another one that wasn't on the list. I just sat down and decided to talk about never giving up because of situations that arose this week. Never give up means to persist and keep trying to achieve a goal despite difficulties, challenges, or setbacks. It's about finding strength to continue when things get tough, believing in your ability to succeed, and seeing failure as a lesson for improvement, not an endpoint. I don't know who this is for tonight. Maybe it's for me. Maybe it's for someone who feels that they're standing at a dead end. Maybe you've been told to give up. Maybe everyone says it's over. Maybe logic says it's over. But something in you says don't quit. Some of you are going to roll your eyes when they hear this. And some of you are going to say, just let it go. Some of you are going to send me statistics and psychology and timelines and probabilities and all this stuff probably I'll get in my inbox. But you know what? This isn't about statistics. This is about conviction. Never give up doesn't mean deny reality. It doesn't mean pretend it doesn't look bad. And it doesn't mean ignore what everyone else is saying. It means when you hit a wall and everyone tells you it's over, you decide whether you believe the wall or you believe God. Because if you study scripture, and I don't care if that makes people uncomfortable, the pattern is always the same. It looks finished, it looks sealed, it looks impossible, and then God moves. And I'm not saying every Red Sea parts. I'm saying sometimes the test is whether you panic or whether you stand. I'm saying if your situation looks bad, don't give up. Because I'm not, and I never will. Everybody's got opinions, statistics, advice, logic. But faith isn't built on majority opinion. It's built on a conviction. This isn't just about relationships. It's not just about cancer diagnosis or financial collapse or reputation damage or addiction. When everything looks stacked against you, never give up doesn't mean chase. It doesn't mean beg. It means refuse to let circumstances define the final chapter. So be smart, pray, evaluate, be in a position to choose what you want than to just accept what's being offered to you. Never giving up is an obsession. It isn't control. It isn't forcing something. It's standing firm when everything around you says retreat. Never give up can turn into pride, control, refusal to see reality, self-destruction, idolizing an outcome. And let's define this properly. Never give up on who you are. Never give up on faith. Never give up on growth. Never give up on becoming stronger. But sometimes you must give up control. I know this is easy to say, easier said than done. Maybe your sea doesn't open today. Maybe the army is loud. Maybe everyone around you is saying, turn back. But here's what I do know. The only real defeat is surrendering your integrity, your faith, and your identity because the moment feels unbearable. So stand. Even if the water hasn't moved yet, stand. If you're standing at a sea tonight, don't panic, don't run, don't force. Stand, pray, and move when told. And never give up becoming the person you're meant to be. You stand anyway, and not because you're guaranteed the outcome, but because quitting would mean that you stop believing in what God put in you. So never give up. When I dissected all the arguments and the AI stuff and the internet and what people are saying, conversations with logic, psychology, statistics, even artificial intelligence, they all say the same thing. Let it go. It's over. This is how it usually ends. Maybe they're right, but faith has never been built on usually. And if you're listening right now, feeling like everything is against you, hear me clearly. The world does not decide your ending. Pain does not decide your ending. Statistics do not decide your ending. God does. And until He writes that last sentence, you are not finished. So never give up. And if you're listening right now, it feels like everything's against you. The storm doesn't decide your ending. The crowd doesn't decide your ending. Statistics don't decide your ending. And humiliation doesn't decide your ending either. God does. As I said, until He writes the last sentence, you're not finished. Never give up. So this has been Glen Noons with Cracked Open. Thank you guys for tuning in today and listening to me. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody. It really helps to share and get the word out. I'm trying to build the podcast. Those of you who have subscribed, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button, follow me, like it, share it, leave a comment. It all helps. I really appreciate it. And always remember that your integrity is your legacy. Treat others as you want to be treated. And karma has no favorites. God loves you. I love you. You have a great week. This is Glen Noons with Cracked Open, and we'll see you next time on Cracked Open.
Thank you for listening to Cracked Open. If today's episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who might need a little light in their own dark season. Remember, even in brokenness, there's beauty waiting to be found. Every crack is a place where the light can shine through. Until next time, stay true, stay hopeful, and keep your heart open.